Conversations with Craig and Kobie.
Welcome to another impactful episode of Conversations with Craig and Kobie. I am Craig King.
And I am Kobie the Wiz. And we are Craig and Kobie. And so here we are again.
We are here, brother.
So
let's be honest with the people.
Let's tell them the truth.
Tell them the truth.
Here's the truth, y'all. Conversation we're about to talk about is not the conversation we was going to talk about.
literally popped up like a couple minutes ago.
This is the beauty of this podcast, YouTube thingy experience. This is the beauty of what we're doing and why we're doing this, right? So, this is the naturalness, right? Of it, and not being locked in,
right?
So that it can be what it's supposed to be.
Yeah, we literally came in with the docket of ideas,
right?
But we were just like,
"This is not it."
Something to come up, and then shout out to Kingdom Culture.
Yep, in the building.
Shout out to Shantae. We were just all talking, and this topic came up, but we don't want to get into it too much because we know we got two things we got to do, right?
Yes. So if you have not been a part of this journey that we've been on, this conversation with Craig and Kobie, you are not aware that this podcast is not like maybe any other that you've listened to. This is not scripted. Right. We don't have notes. We believe that learning happens through conversations, and that the magic of the conversation and the unscripted is really where the magic happens.
Right.
And so what we do have in this podcast, we have a topic and we have a timer. And so if you got 40 minutes, that's about all we're going to keep you. And wherever we are is where we stop. And if we need to continue, we continue, but we don't. That's all we got.
Yeah.
We got a topic and we got a timer. And today's topic is
dealing with death.
Dealing with death. It was not what it was scheduled, and it was not even something we had even written down to talk about, but that's what we're going to be talking about.
All right.
So
set the timer.
Here's the timer, and the timer begins now.
So we literally had to stop talking prior to the cameras started rolling because
we don't want to
we started talking, and then we kind of looked at each other and we were like, we need to have this as a conversation.
As a conversation.
That wasn't even the conversation we were about to start.
So that's the beauty of this thing, right? Because the topic that we had, I knew that wasn't it.
Right.
I was like, that's not it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? No, not this time. That is a conversation for another day. Yeah. That's not it. And so then I was like, but I'm feeling with this thing, with this can and will, right? Can and will doing is where you get your power. Yeah, that was felt good.
But that just kind of sneaked in there because
we started talking about stuff in college, and then this just kind of found its way to the surface, and it was like, this is it. This is the conversation. So
I'm just going to jump out with what we were talking about.
Let's go.
And the conversation I stopped.
Go ahead.
I was sharing with you and Shantae that, my family and I, Sanaya and Tasia, we'll have these great conversations at dinner or in the living room where we just talk about real life stuff, right? And all of a sudden we got on the topic of death. And Sanaya, our 16-year-old, she was just, sharing that, if she just thought about the people that were close to her, and she was like, oh, if this happened, I don't know what I would do. I wouldn't be able to function. I wouldn't be able to get out of bed. And it was relatable based on where I was at her age or when I was coming up, when I thought about people
16,
that were
17, teenager.
Yeah, when you start realizing, wow, people around me, close to me or away from me,
can die.
Death is part of life, right? And so I thought about that and I validated that in her. I just didn't want to say, oh, no, you'll be fine. No, I wanted to validate that feeling because it was a real thing to feel that way. And then you started talking about that preparation piece. That's a responsibility as parents.
As parents, right?
it went to you talking about your daughters and how, the movie Black Panther. I'm not going to steal your thunder, but I want you to talk about that a little bit. And I'll wrap up my little piece. And we had that conversation. It was rich. My wife and I, we poured into her and we shared those honest feelings, but we also shared with her, I shared with her, like when I lost my dad in 2018, that it was a huge loss physically for my dad. But then I proceeded to share with her, like, I feel him every day. And he prepared me to live life without him.
Yeah.
Now, did I want him to leave?
Right.
Absolutely not. I didn't want my dad to die. I don't think anybody wants anyone close to them to leave this earth, right? But by that same reality, I know one day it's going to be my time as well.
Absolutely.
And so it's important that I prepare her to live life without me and prepare all the people around me to live life without me, whether that's me inspiring them in some way to get out of me what's in me.
That's right.
Right? And so it was just a really good conversation. This conversation happened earlier this week, and it was just like, wow, as parents, we spend a lot of time on, school and other things, but like death is one of those things that when you feel appropriate, you should do. Like it's something that kids, and you should have an open dialogue about it.
And I think in the midst of where we are now, right, in the country in 2020 and, COVID and running deaths and almost half a billion Americans.
Like 400,000,
You know what I mean? Like 500,000 Americans, like, so it's present. It's like in the forefront of, and especially like teenagers, because they see the news. You know what I mean?
Right.
I got little people, so I can kind of hide that from them. And they know the COVID-19. They know stuff ain't what it's supposed to be. But yeah, man, I think that whole piece with, that Black Panther movie, when saw it, and, he was like, Father, I'm not ready. I can't live without you. And he said, a father who is not prepared, their child to live without them has failed. And I was like, wow, like that. I stood up like, did y'all hear that? Like, I was like, that's the movie. Like, I'm ready to go. Like, if you don't get nothing else out this movie, like, get that. You know what I mean? And so, when we were talking about, college and all that other stuff and, what college is, we probably need to have that conversation one day.
Yeah.
But we were talking about that, and I said, I think that whole experience is as a parent is now not how do I put character in my child, oh, that's important, right? Now, how do I make sure they do their schoolwork? That's important. But the goal is, how do I make sure I prepare them to adult successfully? And I think keeping that at the forefront helps you to parent them at every level, at whether they're 6 or 16. You know what I mean? I think that when you start thinking about what are the habits, what are the conversations, what are the norms and values that you're trying to get them to, how are you teaching them to operate outside of your presence?
Right.
I think if you think about it like that, how you parent differs, right? Because, we had, I got girls. And so, like, when you're going to let them date? And some people like, never. They're never. 35. You can date at 35. You know what I'm saying?
Bro,
but it's like, but I think now I was talking to a dude and I was like, bro, I really want them to date while I'm in the house because I want to be there to guide them through that process, right? So that when they get out, like, you don't want their first boyfriend to be
trash.
when they're out, but even when they're out of
Yeah.
college, like you don't want their first interactions with
Right.
the opposite sex in like a meaningful, loving. Like you don't want that to be outside of your
Right.
realm of view. Like you want that. You want to be able to watch that, to guide that. This is what you kind of should do. This is why you shouldn't do it. Like you want to have those conversations. I'm in one of these dad groups and all of that stuff. And so they're talking about, my 16-year came up to me and was asking me about sex and, what did I tell him? Do I give him condoms? Like all of that stuff. But as I digress. But yeah, so just understanding that, getting this train back on the track, that talking to your kids about loss and about you not being possibly present in their life is something that you have to and should prepare them for.
Yeah. And when you were saying that last line, I was just like, so for me, it happened organically where I was, because some topics are hard to like, how do you start it?
How do you start it?
How do you start talking about sex? How do you start talking about get married, or how do you start talking about loss and death? And how do you start that conversation? And it's almost like, Sanaya gave me that little softball pitch.
Yeah.
Alley-oop. When it was a serious moment for her, obviously, all of us, my wife included. But that experience gave me an opportunity to share with her, like, what happened to you? What happened to me, in that loss. And, Tasia was able to do the same. And so I think it's important that we just are honest in those moments and not brush it under the rug, because, the grieving and the crying and the loss, all the stuff. But the conversation took somewhat of a shift when I felt the need to share with her, like, even if something happens to me or when something happens to me, y'all are taken care of. And I just didn't leave it as a blanket statement. I said, I kind of went through the process of what would happen. And some people may say, oh, that's, you don't have to do all that.
But you do.
But you do, because
she's going to be an adult one
she's going to be an adult.
And on her own.
So I went through the process. I said, hey, if something happens to me, your
life
mom is going to
insurance.
pick up the phone and dial this person, and that person is going to cut a check for a certain amount that is going to take care of a lot of stuff that's going to allow you to properly grieve me and not have to worry about using your savings,
running back
and forth, starting a GoFundMe account. And we're not criticizing anybody out there that has to do it. You did what you had to do.
There's power in preparation.
But there's power in preparation. And so coupling, talking about loss from that spiritual aspect and the grieving process and how that looks, but also like preparing her, these are the things that you should do.
Yes.
So that your family around you, so in the future she gets married and has children. When she gets married, she knows, hey, I need to get a life insurance policy. I need to get a living will. I need to do all these things.
All the other stuff, that's part of adulting.
That's part of adulting. Not just how to change the bulbs. It's good to know how to change the bulbs in the lamps.
And get your AAA and all of that stuff. But these are the other things and then that conversation about death, right? So that you die, but you never die. Right? That to every ending, there's a new beginning.
That's right.
And right, so that everything is energy. And I know, like, before we got on, you were talking about how, like your dad was gone, but you still feel him.
I dream about him.
Like that part. So
it's
that whole thing of like energy, like, so that's when you can like have those conversations about, who is God and who are we as, human beings having, right, a spirit and a soul, and that we're really spirits having a human experience and not the other way around.
That's right.
Right? That this humanness is laid on top of our spirit, not the spirit laid on top of the human. right? That living that inside out. And so that opens itself up to a whole nother conversation to talk about that. Yeah, we die, but we always live.
That's right.
And that the whole purpose of death should be to inspire life.
Wow.
Right? So that's what death should do. Like death should inspire you to live. And so
Wow.
So I now celebrate February 21st as another birthday. February 21st of 2019, I was driving down to, it's not Myrtle Beach. It was outside of Myrtle Beach.
Conway?
Conway. Mm-hmm. Conway, South Carolina. And it was raining. That time I had a Nissan Titan. And
truck, right?
Truck.
Yep.
Pickup. Mm-hmm. And came around the corner, hit the brakes. Truck, I believed flipped. I believe it rolled. But literally rolled, ran into the side of a house, and was like literally 4 to 6 feet from a propane tank. Like the big ones from the house. Glass shattered. I had torn my Achilles, so I had the thing, and bruh, car flip, back turned in, thing kind of smashed, glass shattered. I had 2 scratches on me. Had 2 scratches on my hand and like 2 scratches on my neck. That was it. And I was like, I should have died. Like if you would have saw the car and not like you walked away from that. You walked away from that and wasn't sore, wasn't literally 2 scratches. And that's when I was like, okay. I'm supposed to be here. I got some work I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And so I think coming that close to death helps you to really appreciate life and why you're here. And so recognizing that people die,
it's going to happen.
It's going to happen. You're going to die. Mm-hmm. And I think the piece is now the question that we have to ask ourselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not if we're going to die, because we are.
Right.
But the question that we have to ask is, how are you going to live knowing that one day you're going to die?
That's a great question.
Great question, right?
And another question I'll put with that, I'll tie in a nice little bow with that. How will you inspire life when you're not here? Going back to what you said earlier.
So
which is tied directly to what you just said.
Yeah. So how do you live a life that inspires others to live even after you're gone? So that's how
So we were just sharing about, Chadwick,
and
Kobie, and how it was clear that they had
life.
But they lived so much prior to, but we all knew that they had so much
more to
give. And even though we know that truth, they are still inspiring life.
Because of the work that they did.
Because of the work that they did while they were here.
So I always kind of wonder that, you know what I mean? you know, God, Jesus, Yahweh, Allah, Buddha, whoever you aspire to as being all in all, like, the universal knowingness of all things, the omnipotence of when people are gone like that, do they, you know what I mean? At some point, do they know, like, I'm not going to be here, so I got to do, you know what I mean? I just wonder if they feel that.
You mean that in the last few
Do
seconds?
Or not even seconds, but like, so Chadwick knew, right? Chadwick knew like 4 years. Like he knew that he was on borrowed time.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so, and Kobie, right? He could have still played. Like, you know what I mean? Like he could have still been balling. You know what I mean? But he was like, you know what?
I'm done.
I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm going
and I'm
out.
not missing it.
I'm going out on top. I'm going to end it here. So I wonder, like, even in all of that, and even, it's why you hear while his wife was talking about did he know, like, I'm not going to grow old? You know what I'm saying? Like,
I get what yeah. I don't know.
You know what I mean? Like, we don't know. I mean, but I know even like with Martin Luther King, when he knew, he was like, man, I would love to live a long life. Love to grow old. Like, but he knew he wasn't.
Circumstances, I think, dictate a lot of that. With Chadwick, he knew he had cancer.
And, right.
Kobie, it was a tragic. They were on the way to play basketball, I believe. Gigi was on the way to play basketball, whatever, with our team or whatever. But I look at my grandma, she probably had an indication.
Yeah.
My dad had an indication.
Yeah, they know. Yeah. And so I think so here's where I'm going.
Okay. And I'm gonna hold mine. Go ahead.
I think this conversation, right? I don't know what it's doing for you, but for me, making me live, but not have to get to that point, right? Where you're like, you only got 4 years left, or you got 36 months. Like, in the comment that you made earlier, like, what he say, the biggest mistake is thinking that you got more time. So what do we do to keep that in front of us so that we live knowing, right, that we're going to die and that we don't take for granted that we have more time?
Right.
So that's...
But it also makes you think that shouldn't be used and flipped in a negative way for us to think we shouldn't prepare for 15 years down the road.
Right.
20 years down the road. So let's make that clear.
Absolutely.
Like, yeah, live your life.
Do it.
Yeah, do it.
YOLO,
don't plan. Spend all your savings. Do everything you want to do.
Live once, baby.
Don't go to work tomorrow. No, we're not saying that. Because no man knows the day nor the hour, correct? We don't know that. So, and even those people that have indications, because God can make a mighty move, and the doctors or a man can say, "Hey, you have bone cancer.
Listen, man,
and you not gonna make it 2 years.
What we know,
but you live a full life.
We know
God is all.
They are practicing medicine.
They're practicing.
They have a medical practice.
That's right.
Because that's what they're doing.
That's what they do.
They practicing,
and we're thankful for them.
Yeah, it's necessary. But let's know they don't know everything, and they best guess.
So let me ask you a question. Since we're dealing with death, and it could have been multiple, but I want you to pick one loss that you've experienced that, even though they may have prepared you, it was just tough for you. Like it was.
Oh, that's easy. That's grandma.
So talk about grandma. Tell the people about grandma.
So grandma.
Tell me about grandma.
So grandma
and the people.
It's probably my favorite person on the planet. Absolutely. She passed, and we've talked about this before. The reason why I did the Finish Strong, I needed something to kind of, you know, keep my mind on it, still working and all of that. But grandma, man, she was the heart and soul of the family, bro. She was
What's her name?
Christine Campbell.
Okay.
Shout out to Christine Campbell, memory of. And so,
What's one thing she taught you?
man,
I know it's many things, but just
many things. I think at the end of the day, well, grandma, let's look at this camera. Let's look at this camera. Well, grandma taught us. What she said is that, Kobie, you always got to treat people right, regardless of how they treat you.
wow.
So that was like the biggest lesson. It's like always treat people right, regardless of, she said, because people, they give you what they got.
Mm.
And so I've taken that and kind of added onto that, and how I say it now is people give to you out of their abundance. So
Whatever that is.
Yeah. So if they have an abundance of fear, an abundance of hate, an abundance of frustration, an abundance of despair,
Yeah.
that's what they give you. Right? So that's why you got to take the time to pour into yourself. So losing her was like tough, bro. Like that was the one who, it was like a year late. And when she passed was like tough too, right? So, you used to always hear those things like, around the holidays, like check on those people who loved ones. But bro, like, so my birthday is the 19th. She passed on the 17th, which is Founders Day for us. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's right before my birthday, right before my little person's birthday. But then, like, my aunt, whose birthday is November 23rd, she was like buried, like, right either like the day after, the day before her birthday. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So and then you got Thanksgiving right after that. So it's just like, so all of that, man. But I think her life and the people that she touched, our house was always during the holidays, and since 60, 70, 80 people, everybody came through grandma's house, grab a plate. So, so her life is one that inspires me to live and to be better. You know what I mean? Like,
you feel like she's prepared you to live
life. Man, yeah. She definitely did. You know what I mean? That's what she would say, Kobie, I'm not always going to be here. You know what I mean? So, and be like, girl, stop saying that. Like, right. You know what I mean? Like, because at that, I just thought that she would just be around forever just because she always had been. You know what I mean? And so
it was a constant.
Yeah. So you literally just don't picture life without them, because they just have she just was always there.
Because why would you picture it if they're there?
Yeah.
Like why even put yourself through that?
Yeah,
because that's the human side of it. Like, we know it's going to happen or a possibility, but let's not even spend time on that, because I can see them, I can touch them right here.
Right, and so dealing with that and grieving that, and that's the thing, like, nobody can tell you how to grieve.
No.
Or even how long it takes. But understanding that you got to live while you do that. So it's not like, well, get over it. You know what I mean? Like, that's not the thing. It's get along with it.
You don't get over it.
You get along with it. And so how do you deal with death in a way that still allows you to mourn and not necessarily be okay with them being gone, but recognizing that not everybody stays. Nobody stays here forever.
Right.
So So holding on to the sadness, right? It doesn't serve you. And you got to do what serves you. You know what I mean? And so As
And
I say, like you be sad, like you grieve, like but you pitch a tent there. You don't grab bricks. Like you can visit there, like you can visit that
that's
space,
good.
but you can't live
That is
there.
good, man.
Yeah, pitch a tent. Don't grab no bricks though.
And it's all about the energy you give it to it as well.
Yeah.
Because like, so for me, that same question, if I had to answer it, I would say prior to my dad passing, it was my grandma too, my grandma Ada. And they were one and the same. That was my dad's mom or whatever. But, you know, I was sharing with Sanaya in that conversation, I was sharing about losing my dad. There's times when I pitch a tent, and sometimes that tent is when I'm driving. It doesn't happen at home. Like it doesn't happen at home when I'm doing things. It happens when I'm by myself. When I'm either driving to work or driving from work.
That's when they.
It happens in like this one space of road.
That's when they
it happens
you.
on hard scrabble road. Like when I make that left, and when I'm passing by CVS, it's nothing that it reminds me, but it's just like that same area or hard scrabble, and I have a good cry. I pitch a tent there.
There's an energy that just.
But the energy also translates to the dreams. Like I'm a dreamer. Some people are dreamers. Like I have vivid dreams every night. Like when I go to sleep, I look forward to it because it's like an adventure. Like I'm doing all kind of crazy stuff. Like it's. But I often have these serious dreams or just fun dreams about my dad since he passed, and they're always life. Like the last dream I had, we were driving in his '69 Charger down 26, stopped at a gas station to get some food and drink or whatever, and drove home. Another dream was he was with his cousin George in New York having pizza, and he had on some red Chucks. I ain't never seen my dad in Chucks before, but and he was just happy. And those dreams, they're just like I take them as energy, him communicating with me. And I've always been a vivid dreamer. And what's interesting about that, Kobie, is when my grandma was alive, so I've always been a vivid dreamer. I remember her sharing with me that my dad was a vivid dreamer too, and he would dream things that would actually come to pass.
Oh yeah.
And so, and that happened to me. That happens to me.
Yeah, me too.
One of my friends used to call me Nostradamus. I mean, he used to pick at me because I used to dream stuff and it would actually come to pass or whatever. And so I look at those things that he's instilled in me and how I'm able to live now that he's gone, and just the right things I know to do when it comes to like my family and my community, my friendships. And I'm not perfect. You know, I'm not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. There are things that I need to do. There are things that I know I need to do as it relates to like friendships and people that are close to me that I need to do. And so, but at the end of the day, I am proud of what he prepared me to be. Him and my grandmother. My grandma Ada, I used to always stop by her house when I went home in college before I came back. And she said something to me one day that stuck with me, and I wrote about it in my book. She said, it helped me because like being in college, you know, you're pulled so many different ways. You're learning so many things about yourself, relationships and stuff. And she said, and she didn't say this to give me a pass, but she did say, Craig, no one leaves this earth perfect. Everyone, when they die, they die struggling with something. They are struggling with something.
But I think that everybody, all of us. So here's the thing about like living. Living is literally about learning to trust yourself. That's really what life is really about, is learning to trust yourself. Because you think like, if I knew what I knew now, right? But when you look back, you did what you did because of what you knew, right? And so you trusted yourself based on the information that you had, the wisdom and the experiences, right, that you lived through. So now you look at the older version, you're like, man, but because you've lived more, right? You've had some more time with yourself. You've had some different experiences. So that's what brings about. So you know, when you talk about when people get older, like, man, they just say whatever they want to say. Like they just do whatever they want. Like because they know. They know. They've had 40, 50, 60, 60, 70 years with themselves. And you're like, man, they just say what they want. They don't care. Like, no, it's not that. It's just that now they have a different level of assurance and of knowingness.
Yeah.
And so that's really what it's about.
And when you see your children growing up, you're like,
Oh,
let me give you game.
boy, man.
But sometimes it's like, I don't want game. I just want to do this.
Listen,
But you're like, it
listen,
would make life so much easier
listen,
if you
bruh,
just get
like,
this game, this free game.
Yesterday,
Not just your children, but
bruh,
we work with
listen,
children. Like
yesterday,
just children in the community.
Bruh.
Like, get this free game.
Listen,
and
bruh.
I can.
Yesterday, I'm working with my daughter. Like, look, I need you to take these sight words that you got. I need you to write one sentence per line per word.
Mm-hmm.
I come back. She's like, well, I wrote this one, but then I started the next sentence on this line because I had some more space. I'm like, but that's not what I asked you to do. Like, there's a reason. Like, what did I ask you to do? She's like, you asked me to write, one sentence per line per sight word. What did you do? Well, I started the sentence, but what did I ask you to do? Right? You follow in the lesson, baby. There's a reason. And you got to learn to follow. I love that you want to go outside and you see, but there's a reason. And so both of my kids, man, they are just, they are very strong-willed. They really want to do what they want to do. And it's just,
I want to know where they get that from.
Bruh, it's tough.
Let me try to think.
It's tough raising smart. And the littlest one, bro, when I tell you she ain't got no type of confidence issues.
None.
She has been here before. If I didn't believe in reincarnation, this one, she's small, but she walks tall, bro. She has a confidence, an assuredness that I just don't know where she got it to be so young.
So what does that do for you as a dad when we're talking about going back to our topic, dealing with death? At that age, for her to have that, does that offer you some type of comfort?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Talk about that.
Because I know, she's the youngest, but she's going to be the leader of those two. You know what I mean? So should things happen, she's going to be the one that's going to be look, let's get this to get she's going to be the one. And so, I told my mom and my sister and the missus, it's I don't want to kill that in her.
Right.
I love the fact that she's assertive. She says, what it is untrained leadership.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it is. It's just untrained leadership.
Yeah.
So getting her to recognize, and so those, I know her, there'll probably be conversations I can have with her that I won't be able to have with her because her sisters are feel an emotional mess.
Right.
I
got you.
Because Alana's oh, the puppy died. All right. It's okay.
Can we get another one?
That part. You know what I'm saying? She's gonna be that one. So but I think having that in them, and having that conversation because they're gonna they got grandparents and so getting them prepared to deal with that loss.
Yeah.
Is
that's interesting. That makes, and when you were talking about your youngest being that just untrained leader, my oldest brother, out of all, I have three brothers, my oldest brother, Carlton, is that person. He's the unofficial leader of the pack.
Mm-hmm.
And he accepts that responsibility. And even now as adults, all of us are adults, but when it comes to a family issue, he sets the stage as far as all right, these are our options. Just what a leader would do, but also give you the input. You're a grown man. What do you think about the situation? But he has always been that identifiable leader. And my parents often went through him when something needed to be communicated, not because they loved us any less. It was just that they knew it too. And there was no program or no ceremony that says, all right, Carlton King is the leader of the brothers and will communicate all information, blah, blah, blah. It was just one of those things that was naturally, it's just it just happened.
Now, see, in our family, we have, just like in the frat, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have protocol.
Right.
So it goes from the oldest to the youngest. And in our family, like that is just grandma, grandpa, that is something that they left with us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because so my sister's the oldest in our shout out to Elijah Wilkerson. She's the oldest and she is the leader. She's the second oldest grandchild. I'm the first and oldest boy. But it'd be protocol. You know what I mean? Like it's like the brothers. I come in, like, the room, because there's a bunch of us cousins.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, up, Mikey, get up. I need to sit down. So Mikey gets up, I sits in the seat, he goes over to, the next court, get up, sit down. You know what I mean? So it's just
So how does that, how does having that identified order help with death? I know for us in our family, when Dad passed, it was just like there was just that leadership that Carlton just.
Well, it was that, man, and because so here's how it translated in our family. When we would have family, Thanksgiving, we all get in a circle and we would go around and we would say what we're thankful for.
Yeah,
and so that protocol took place in the circle. My mom is the oldest, so it would start with my mom, go my dad, then her kids, then the next oldest aunt, she would go, then their kids. Right? The next oldest aunt, right? Then their kids. And that was like the protocol. Like, so that's how it went. So even in little things like that, it was like established.
It's preparation.
It's preparation. Like it's saying it without saying it. Like this is how this goes.
Because in knowing that loss is going to happen in my immediate family, wherever it happens, having that preparation gives you space to say, if something happens, everything's gonna get taken care of that needs to get taken care of, and I can grieve the way I choose to grieve, and my brother or my sister or whoever can grieve the way that they need to grieve. They need to grieve.
Yeah, and that grieving process that's a whole nother thing. How do you do that? And nobody can tell you, and you got to do what you know you need to do for you, and don't let anybody else tell you how to grieve or what's okay to do to grieve. So
yeah, I was listening to I just caught the last little bit of this NPR interview when I went out a little bit ago, and on the way back, the guy was just saying how he wrote this paper while he was in school, and he just wrote about his hometown and upbringing, and then he had to share it. And sometime I'm gonna finish the story.
Go ahead, finish.
And so he was sharing the story, and he couldn't get through the first paragraph because he realized he had never grieved his father. So for him, he realized that for him to properly grieve, he needed to go back to what his father meant to his community and his home and what he meant to him. He never grieved his father. And it came out in that class while he was reading that paper. And so, that's a process we have to figure out what that looks like. And
get that stuff
it's
out
not,
of us.
when you hear grieve, people think, oh, boohoo crying. That's not necessarily the case when it comes to grieving.
Right.
Sometimes grieving is like closing that chapter, or not even closing that chapter, but just reflecting on it the way that's going to benefit you.
Good stuff.
Man.
Good stuff.
That was good. We have to be obedient to 40 minutes.
Systems keep us safe and keep us in place, right?
But I don't know. We'll talk about it. We may come back and continue this conversation. We don't know, but make sure you subscribe.
Yes.
And
go to the YouTube. Go to the podcast if you're living in that,
follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Craig and Kobie.
Yep. Shout out to Kingdom Culture.
Kingdom Culture, Shantae Darby. Keeping us looking good,
so
sounding good.
Before we get out of here, we always do this thing. What are we wearing, right? Some of you guys who are watching on the YouTube, you get to see it. But for those who are listening, they cannot see us. So we do this piece at the end, what we're wearing. Today, I just got on some jeans. I'm rocking my Air Maxes. I got on a frat shirt that says "So Nice." They had to name it twice. Shout out to the majestic Side chapter of the Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. And I got a jacket, a tan jacket.
Don't put that jacket down.
That has Omega Psi Phi on it as well. But you
Don't
know.
put that down.
What?
Oh, well, you can put it down. You'll be able to track me down.
Yes, sir. On the other side, it has 3 majestic side 96. So, yeah, personalized nail. Yeah, that's what we do.
Yeah,
and then,
that's how you got to do it.
I'm rocking my The Wiz hat. And that's it, man. What you rocking? What you got on?
Man, just a regular long sleeve black shirt. Got my jean jacket that my wife bought for me. And some jeans, man. Nothing special. Yeah. But the jean jacket is special. Let me rephrase that.
Yes.
It is very special. My lovely wife, Tasia King, bought this for me. So, yeah.
So that's what we hit, man. So check us out on all media platforms. And till next time, this was Conversations with
Craig and Kobie.
Till next time, y'all.
Peace out.
Peace out.
Conversations with Craig and Kobie.